Welcome to Medicine at the Museum with the University of Michigan Museum of Art. In today's installation, we are talking with artist Joanne Leonard. Leonard is an internationally recognized photographer and collage artist and retired Distinguished University Professor at the University of Michigan's Penny Stamps School of Art and Design. Also joining us is Dave Choberka, Curator for University Learning and Programs at UMMA. Many of Leonard's works are in the collection at UMMA, including photography and collages centered on the intimate domestic experiences of women. Running through all of Leonard's work is an awareness that the personal is political, and our everyday experiences also speak to larger forces of history. The University of Michigan Museum of Art has multiple pieces in our collection from an ongoing series first created by Leonard in 2005 called Newspaper Diary. These pieces juxtapose daily newspaper clippings with art historical images that connect the past to the present. In this interview, we will discuss this series and how the recent piece, Little Prints and COVID Curves, connects current events surrounding coronavirus to our everyday experiences.
Hello, I'm Joanne Leonard. I was for many years a professor at the School of Art and Design, and though I'm retired now, I continue as an artist.
Thank you so much for joining us today. And Dave.
Hi. I am David Choberka. I'm the Curator for University Learning and Programs at the University of Michigan Museum of Art. One of the things I regularly do in my work is work with university classes and pull out works from our collection to our study room for those classes to discuss. And Joanne's recent works, using news images and pairing them with an art historical image or other image, is one of my favorite sets of works to use with the students.
So nice.
So my goal today is to actually ask both of you about your work. We have some of the newspaper diary pieces in the collection, and I know we use them a lot at the UMMA in the study rooms with students. So I would love to really hear from both of you first, from Joanne about your experience of creating these pieces, and I know you have a new piece that you've made that specifically addresses COVID.
Well, I've actually been making the newspaper diary pieces since 2005. And what it involves, people often ask, do you find the art historical images or the newspaper images first? It always starts with the newspaper image. That's my interest and my connection with kind of an intention toward a daily practice or a frequent practice of responding to things in the world. I'm not so much as I once was out photographing, but and I've always admired photographs by other people, and maybe that drove me to become a collage artist in addition to being a photographer. So I'm looking for material or things that I respond to, and then I look for something that I might pair that is in this set of collages that, as you described it, pairs things from the daily press with something I'd like to in a book often in art, historical art reproduction.
And I love this new piece, and I recognize the image that you're pulling from the Little Prince.
Oh, yeah.
Joanne, one of the questions I always have when I look at your great newspaper diary pieces is, like, how quickly, so you start with the news image, how quickly does the art historical image or the other image that you're pairing it with come to you? Is it kind of an instant thing, or do you actually have to search, or maybe it's like sometimes it's one, sometimes it's the other?
Sometimes one and sometimes the other, but because I keep a lot of things, they're just too good to, throw them away. But on the other hand, it's not uncommon that when I see something, the reason I'm attracted to it is that it actually puts something else in my mind that I think, oh, that's so much like this, or I could do this with that. So it's a little of both as you framed it. And no, I have a big stack, so I don't run and do something with everything. Sometimes I don't know what I could do with it. Sometimes I think there's a picture that was recently people sweeping or cleaning, but they were all in a kind of regimented rows, and it made me think of the soldier figures that were buried in China and exhumed. A picture of it, so that's still waiting. So
that's interesting. So sometimes it's an image in your head, but you don't know the actual.
That would match something I can't find that I'm sure exists out there.
Right.
I have the library, which is one thing I do is take my clippings to the library and start looking, and often it leads me somewhere I had no intention of going, but. So, for example, you see this when I hold it up?
Yes.
I saw that photograph, the small photograph is from the newspaper. And when I saw that, I thought those children climbing on bars, it reminded me of an abacus. So I went looking for some book that might have an abacus. I found a book about math. But the book about math had the illustration about music as a way of dividing up time. And then I thought, well, they look like figures on notes on a musical staff. So it turned into something different than what I had imagined. But it was my search for my first idea that led me there. So
fascinating.
Part of my process. But initially I had some idea I would get it all from my own shelves, but that wasn't really possible.
That was my imagination. Like you would see this image and you'd be like, aha, that image in that book right there on the shelf.
That's happened, but it hasn't happened as I'd like. Since I like to stay home, it drives me up to the library occasionally.
That's fascinating to me. There's kind of an exploratory aspect to your method in producing these, because that's one of the things I like most about using them with the students. Is there's kind of it's basically sort of presenting the students with three images. There's the newspaper image, there's the art and historical image, and then the combination of the two. And the two in dialogue generates ideas.
Right.
Like it's not finished. It's like it's constantly exploratory. It's constantly material that's inviting people to think of new connections.
Right, and sometimes there's a bit of a caption. Though I never want to depend on that because that's not very visual, but the caption might enter in, or even the date might have some importance. And the date's always in it. When there were some exhibited, maybe in Humanities Institute, and there was a review, and the reviewer said it's either about newspapers or is it a diary? It was kind of in like distress. Why did she call it that? And
whatever.
I mean, there's no newspapers and there's no diary, but I'm content that it's not diaristic in maybe the most typical sense, and it doesn't happen as often as daily. But I do intend it to be kind of a way to register the days passing.
Absolutely.
I read about, and I think it may have been actually in the foreword of the book that you can imagine you sitting at the table looking through the newspaper, and you can kind of imagine your cup of coffee there, and you just happen to have these, art historical images there. But there's such a rich linking of the inner domestic life, and I think in your most recent piece too, it's almost like a personal and political that we see in a lot of your work.
Yeah, well, the story of the image with the little print. So you see that funny little hump in a page that was in the New York Times of graphs. So that graphs the plateau of and the hoped for downward curve of the virus in a couple of places. And when I saw that, oh my gosh, that looks just like that illustration in the Little Prince. And I actually have a copy of the Little Prince. It's a French book, but my copy's in Italian. And worse, it only had one of those images on the page, and the next, so that the more hat-like one, and then the other image was on the next page. So I had to buy an English copy online because they can't go to the library, and I was, hell bent for making this happen. And so, thank gosh, when it came, it had them both on. And I could see it online. I looked it up online. I found the illustration, and they were always one after under the other. Sometimes much more handsomely reproduced with a little bit of color and things like that. But anyway, this is what I got by sending for one on Amazon. And thank goodness they were on the same page instead of one page after each other.
So in this case, the visual similarity came to you right away.
Right away, and I pursued it right away. And that happens, especially if I think I have the very book I need, which I did and didn't in this case. It would have been fun if it were in Italian, since my copy was in Italian. But so this is in English, and there they are. And then my niece wrote something about, well, isn't that funny, because isn't the story about most people can't see this or can't see it.
Right.
And so it's very charmingly related.
For any of our audience who aren't familiar with the book, or who maybe it's just been a long time since they've read it, the images there, if you'd like to speak to, you talked about sort of drawing number one, as it's referred to in the book, and drawing number two. The Little Prince opens with this sort of description from the narrator around these two images, and that he uses these as a litmus test to see if adults are if grown-ups are understanding,
that's a perfect recapitulation, yes. And so you have to be perceptive and tuned in, and probably not a grown-up to see this properly. And he starts with saying, draw me a lamb. Doesn't he say, draw me a lamb? Or
draw me a sheep.
And anyway, it's a conversation about drawing and ineptitude about drawing and so on, and it goes on.
Yeah. And I think it's so interesting too, because on one side we have these images that are really, I think, iconic of a lot of people's childhood, but then on the other side, these images that are parallel but are so terribly adult and
just terrible.
Terrible.
Yeah,
that's right.
Except worse, it's a downward curve where we don't even have that.
Yeah. Another thing that's fascinating about this to me is, so the images on the right are graphs of data, they're visualizations of data, right? So data has, data is about sort of objectivity and rationality, seeing what's actually there. And there's this idea that, I like the fact that you brought in this kind of adult perspective, Amanda, because it's basically like, you have to have like an adult rational perspective to see the graph for what it is. But at the same time, there's people who are questioning data. There's people who are saying these things aren't objective, they're subjective, right? So there's something interesting. And then the thing on the left, like, you can't be an adult to actually see what's there. You have to have the eyes of like childhood fantasy in order to actually see what's there. Yes. And this the way it puts those sort of rationality and fantasy, childhood and adult in dialogue with one another is fascinating.
Oh, that's wonderful, David. Thank you.
I think it's also interesting that both of the images represent risk and danger, because, the boa constrictor swallowing the elephant is what we're seeing, from the Little Prince images, and the fact that grown-ups who are not discerning look at an image and see a hat and don't see the risk. Whereas, I think, exactly what you were just saying, Dave, that so many people are looking at these graphs and not really understanding the risk and seeing the risk at the same time.
That's perfect.
When did you make this piece?
Well, very recently. I guess I don't even know anymore, in terms of or something like that. Just a few weeks ago. But you say you have in the collection the one I made one about the Ebola, or
yes,
about the Ebola.
Right here.
Perfect.
Yeah. It's much more dramatic and art historical. But in that one, I just love how the orange that surrounds that I guess is actually the color of the stretcher. Maybe it's leather, or just orange fabric, but it echoes the yellow and orange of the gowns of the female figures below the Christ figure, so they seem so amazingly parallel in a visual way.
Yeah. Another example of that like has really stood out to me, especially when I see this work in person, is the two men that are standing in the back of the newspaper image with the shovels. They're wearing these white masks, and this sort of vertical orientation of their shovels and the white masks reflects the vertical orientation of the crosses in the background here and the loincloths that they're wearing. It seems impossible that they're so connected. And then similar to the COVID piece, this one, puts these interesting sort of concepts in dialogue of like on the right we have a depiction of Jesus Christ, so a figure whose death is like has this worldwide significance or universal significance, even if we like think of it from the perception of like a Christian understanding of the world. The person on the left, they are named, which is interesting. Like if you can actually read the subtitle here, the name of this victim is named, but there's still a sense of them being one of many anonymous victims, right? And the sort of singularity of Jesus versus the mass death caused by Ebola is one of the things this makes me think about. And then this emphasis on touching the body in the crucifixion image, as opposed to not being able to touch the body in an epidemic situation. Those are all just really interesting thoughts that this pairing in this piece brings up.
That's just great, and I guess something more could be made. The book is the Book of Days. I think it's a medieval manuscript that relates to ideas of calendar, I guess, and like a newspaper working time recording history.
Right.
I think something so powerful in your work is the way that you juxtapose the past and the present, and then it really disrupts that line of, where you start to question, which picture are we in right now? And I know so many people have expressed with the current COVID crisis that, myself, I'm a medical historian, and in my research, I think about, the 14th century and plague pandemic, and so thinking about the real resonance right now today with what people are going through in terms of the loss of life and the patterns of how spread happens. And so sometimes when I look at your images and I'll see, something that roots us in the past with something that's so present is really powerful and affecting.
Thank you. That's great.
And we have another piece in the collection that I know, Dave, you use a lot in the classroom. It's a Haitian, there's a Haitian earthquake piece.
Yeah, so in my work, we try to use the collection of the art museum and the special exhibitions that we happen to have at any time to make really deep connections with the curricula of sort of any number of classes on campus. We work with around 400 classes a year, and we try to use the collection in ways that connects to core questions and themes of those classes, and to really show how art is a practice that it's a form of inquiry. It's a form of engaging with these questions. It's not just examples or visual representation just backing up other ideas. They're just really thinking with visual culture. That's why Joanne's works are so great for working with these classes, because they're an example of how you actually work with visual culture to make connections between different forms or different types of images, and to see what sort of themes that they generate, and to really let the images speak and tell a story, and not just treat them as examples of other ideas. And so the Haitian earthquake, the Haitian earthquake image that we're looking at right now, and then the Ebola image that we were just looking at, are ones that we like to use for a variety of classes that would relate to sort of questions of, but really any class that's engaging with questions of sort of social justice and marginalization and sort of visibility. These pieces sort of raise questions of sort of, whose deaths are treated as singular, nameable, meaningful within a broader culture, and which ones are sort of, shuffled off to the side. Insignificant. They're great. We use a lot of the images for classes on immigration, because they raise similar questions about sort of visual representation of who's in and who's out, who are depicted as outsiders, whose stories are worth telling, who's worthy of justice.
Well, that's all a big honor to me to have such important conversations, seeing my work to take part in conversations of such value and important. The book I found about the Haitian art led me to this painting by a Haitian artist, and it depicts that American soldiers put this body. They intentionally created a temple that looked religious.
Exactly. Yeah,
and then the Haitian artist made the painting based on this photograph.
Yeah, the name of the man that's depicted in the painting is Charlemagne or something like that.
Charlemagne Perrault.
So it was during the U.S. occupation of Haiti during World War I.
Right.
Perrault was a leader of an independence movement against the U.S. occupation, and the Marines killed him, and they propped his body up on a door, and sort of tied him to it, and took a photograph of it. And similar to your works, Joanne, that image that photograph they took made people think of all the images of the crucifixion that they'd seen before.
And it disarmed them in a way, or freaked them out, and helped the not very admirable American cause at that moment.
Yeah, but it also it depicts Perrault as a kind of a martyr, as a kind of Jesus figure. So it led to this sort of, it actually helped his cause by depicting him as a martyr who was unjustly killed by the American occupation. Yeah. So that the parallels with the crucifixion imagery added to his mystique and depth, and actually promoted the independence movement. And then someone, like a famous Haitian painter, created a painting of the photograph, which hangs in the Haitian National Gallery. And then there's eerie visual parallels between this newspaper image that you found.
Yeah.
And I think in the classroom, what I've seen, students, a lot of times the format is there will be, 10 to 15 works of art out, and the students will take a few minutes and, really engage and look at them and reflect on how these images relate to what they're reading and talking about in class. And then they will choose the images that really resonate for them and share their thoughts. And I can't even tell you how many times I've seen students choose your images. And I think one of the things that speaks to them so viscerally is this question of whose death matters. You have such vivid scenes of tragedy, and the fact that you juxtapose them the way that you do, it sort of shakes us out of our stupor of becoming numb to loss of life on such a scale, or in certain parts of the world, or people of color. And I just find it incredibly powerful. And even your new image with the little prince, and then a line that's showing, the dead. It's showing infection rates, but it's also showing, I think, death rates. It's a very powerful way of helping students, connect things that we can sometimes understand a little bit more about things that are iconic or about the past, but with our present moment as well.
One of the pedagogy that we practice in the museum is very much about getting students to look at images, to talk about what they see and what it makes them think about before we come in and tell them about it, right? And that image of the Haitian earthquake victim, they immediately jump to these questions of who's this guy laying on the street? Who is this guy in the painting? Why did that guy deserve to have a painting of him?
Yeah.
Does the newspaper even name the person that's laying in the street? Because in this case, they're not named. It just says a victim of the earthquake. The students pick up those threads immediately from the visual material that your works provide to them. They don't need to be told that that's what they should be thinking about in relation to these. So they're very powerful in that respect.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
I'm also really struck by the fact that it's a children's book in this most recent piece, because, so many people are at home with their kids, and, school isn't open, daycare isn't open, and so parents are reading more stories, and children are flipping through their children's books more than ever. And there's something really beautiful too about that continuity in your work with the politics of the domestic, and that it is in our daily caregiving, and a lot of experiences, especially of women, I think during this time, during lockdown, are being. I think your work is also kind of speaking to and documenting that. If I project my own view onto it.
That's wonderful. I mean, this is such an unusual time. Everybody's finding its way through it and what to do with the time. I feel very fortunate to be not. There's every level of disruption and just managing the unusual.
Well, I really appreciate both of you taking the time to share.
Joanne, you have both been spectacular in what you've contributed by bringing your thoughts to it and your knowledge and your experience with students. So that's been great for me.
It really is an honor to meet you.
Absolutely, Joanne. I work with your art so regularly, and I love it so much in the student.
And thank you both. Very great.
Thank you for joining us for this installment of Medicine at the Museum. For more examples of Joanne Leonard's work, please follow the link on the UMMA website to UMMA Exchange. Until next time.